Do you ever feel like the grief you're feeling has left a crater in your chest? Like half of your chest is gone and there's this deep hole. It's like a bloody, raw meat feeling. I used to lay on my bed at night and wanting God to heal me, wanting God to stop the pain. Why does grief feel like a crater in your chest? Well, I know when you lose your husband how it feels. I've never lost a child, so I don't know how that feels. I've lost a mother and two of my closest friends, but nothing has hurt as deeply as losing my husband. We were married for 28 years when I found him dead one morning. And nothing had prepared me for that kind of pain. I'd never lost anyone but a couple of grandparents, and I wasn't really close to them. We hardly ever saw them. So I was in shock when my husband passed away, and I did not know anything about how to deal with grief. And so I just like, what? Just laying on the bed, feeling like the blood is just pooling in this crater in my chest, and I feel like half of it's been ripped out, and there's nothing I could do about it. And I just remember asking the Lord to help me with this. And as I laid there, and I just felt like the only thing I could really do, I couldn't get rid of it. I mean, I tried. I tried to run away from this pain and got into some relationships I shouldn't have got into because I was running away and trying to fill this hole in my heart. Nothing could fill it, not even wonderful friends. And I know people were praying for me and loving me, but nothing filled this crater in my chest. It's so painful, I couldn't stand it. So I remember just laying on my bed at one point and just like thinking I was in the presence of God, offering up my pain in my chest to Him, just giving it to Him. And I got the impression that every time I felt the pain and gave it to Him, I just offer this pain up to you, Lord, that a little bit more of healing took place, a little bit less raw in a spot, and a little bit more filling in of the crater in another spot, just a little bit more healing of the loss that I had sustained from losing my husband. But I want to share something with you about how the crater doesn't stay there forever. It doesn't stay forever. When I would give it to the Lord all the time, no matter how bad it hurt or how little it hurt or how in between it hurt, just constantly bringing my pain to the Lord and giving it to Him, I noticed that He started doing special things for me. I would get a sense of peace. I would still be hurting, but the peace would be there. I would get a sense of comfort, as if He was rocking me in His arms and holding me, even though I was screaming and crying so much of the time. I was still in His arms, and He was comforting me, consoling me, and giving me His presence. He doesn't just say, here's a promise, here it is, believe it, you'll be fine. He doesn't do that. He'll say, here's my Bible, just read it, you'll be fine. He doesn't do that either. He comes personally. He gives Himself. Have you ever wanted to spend time with someone and they were just preoccupied, reading their phone or watching TV or talking to someone else, or here's The thing I hated the most after my husband died and I dated around a little bit, I dated this one guy. We were at a restaurant. He was looking around. I'm like, hello, I'm right here. Hello, eyes on me, please. Because my first husband was never distracted. We go to a restaurant and he was completely focused on me. And our conversation was completely personal between the two of us every time we were together. Was never distracted. So it was a shock to me to go out with other guys who were distracted and looking around. I'm like, wait a minute here. You're not focused on me. I want your attention. Your personal presence, not just your physical presence. And I sure don't just want a book about you. You know, God doesn't just give us his book, which is wonderful and terrific, and we need it desperately. We need the truths and the promises that are in there because they sustain us. But he gives us his personal presence. So that's what assuaged, is that the right word? Assuaged my pain and gave me peace in the midst of all that turmoil in my heart and everything. And the other thing I noticed, it took years for me to notice this, but that crater, you know, it's kind of shaped like a mixing bowl. You know, it's narrow on the bottom and it spreads out real wide. That's what that crater felt like. Took out half of my body, you know, half of my chest. But now, as the chest filled in and healed over the days and months and years, that bowl-shaped crater raised up until it was on top of a healed chest, and it was a bowl. It was like a golden bowl that was so holy and so precious. And you know why? Because of all the times the Lord touched me during my grieving. The times he sent a friend to leave a rose by my front door, and I was so desperate for his help and praying on my way home, please help me, please touch me with your love. I know it's 10 o'clock at night, but please, I need your help. And I got home and walked up the sidewalk, and there was a yellow rose at my door that a friend had left for me. Through the strangest of circumstances, she wasn't planning to do that. But it all came together in her circumstances as she happened to be on my side of town, and she only had enough money to do one little thing for me, which was to buy one rose, she told me later. And she wrote a little handwritten note on an odd piece of paper. It wasn't a card or anything fancy. It was something so simple and so humble. But you know, that was an answer to prayer for me. God, help me. I know it's late. It's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm so alone, and I'm walking. I'm going to be going home to a whole weekend alone, which I normally spent weeping and sometimes screaming during the weekend. And a friend brought me that rose, laid it by my door with a note. I don't remember what it said. I wish I had kept it somewhere. Maybe I have it somewhere in a box somewhere, of how much she loved me and was thinking about me. And that ministered to me. That's just one thing, one instance of his tender, loving care that he showed me personally in answer to a prayer that went into this bowl. There are flowers in this bowl. There are golden nuggets in this bowl. There are silver nuggets in this bowl. All the times, I would have to say thousands of times, the Lord has done what I call touched me with his love, comforted me, ministered to me through his word, through his peace, through his personal presence, through sending a friend to give me a call, send me a card, bring me a flower. that crater in your chest can be healed. It can be filled up. And what you will have left is a beautiful bowl filled with all the treasures that the Lord has shown you and given you personally and intimately from Him. I will never forget. I mean, that grieving was the hardest thing I've ever been through, but yet it was the most treasured time I think I have ever had because of what the Lord did for me and how He ministered to me and how He showed Himself so kind and patient and willing to be with me through every moment and every pain and every trouble and turmoil that I had. That crater in your chest may be there now, but it will not always be there. Not always. It can be filled with treasures from the Lord. I still miss my husband, and it still aches, and there's certain things that trigger it, you know. But it's been 13 years, and I'm not saying everybody gets well completely from a death. I don't think you ever do. You know, some people hold on to their pain because that's their memory of that person that they loved. And some people's pain are different depths and different varieties than others. I'm just telling you what happened to me and what the Lord did for me personally. I feel like the crater in my chest healed up very, very slowly. And now what I have left is this beautiful bowl full of treasures that the Lord has given me over the last 13 years since my husband died. And every time I have a turmoil and every time I have a trouble, I've learned from that grieving experience to go to Him and say, God, I'm really hurting right now. Help me. Touch me with your love. Show me what to do. Give me wisdom. Help me to react in a way that pleases you instead of being angry and bitter and resentful. Help me to forgive. Help me to be patient. Help me to have faith. Help me to be kind. You know, so, and those things are also going into this bowl of treasures. So, of His answers to those things and what He's doing in my heart through the current troubles that I have. So I just wanted to share that with you, why it feels like you have a crater in your chest is because half of your soul has been ripped out of your body. There's only your soul left. The other person's soul is gone. That's why it hurts so much, and it has an effect on your body as well as your mind and your spirit. Because half of your soul is gone. You were one spirit with this person. And when he's gone, you're just left alone. It's like you're abandoned, except for the Lord. You know, I noticed that I would try to go to certain friends with my issues and grieving, and well, I noticed no one could handle it. It was too much for any one person or any one, two or three persons. But I noticed that if I would take every pain to the Lord, He would minister to me, and He would send someone. And when that someone would come and say something or do something like sending the flower, I could tell them how I had been praying for God to send someone to help me or touch me with His love. And then they sent that flower. And then they were so blessed to know that God was able to use them. That's completely different than me pulling on a friend saying, I need you, please help me. And that's okay to do that. But I think I had to learn to quit trying to pull everything from somebody and learn to go to the Lord with it and let Him bring the people to me to say things and do things for me. He might bring a person, or heck, I used to hear songs on the radio that would really minister to me during that time that became treasures to me. I still treasure when I hear one of those songs. I'm like, oh, I remember that song and how the Lord ministered to me through that song. And There were all kinds of different ways that he filled up the crater in my chest with himself and with his treasures. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight. And I hope that the crater in your chest can be filled up with the Lord's love and with his touches and with his treasures as well. Love you much. Receive his touch. And remember, you are loved.